The first method is very simple. It's virtually invisible, and it fits very neatly into the conversation. It's called the agreement. I call it the agreement extension. So you're going to agree with whatever they said, and then run on that theme further until you can start taking any direction you want. Does that make sense? So someone's talking about sailboats and how wonderful it sounds. You know you're so right. You want to agree with enthusiasm. You are so right. Sailboats are the most amazing thing. It's kind of like racing. Now you see, now you can go in any other direction. But I've agreed enthusiastically, right? It's kind of like the yes and principle. You're using whatever they've talked about, and you're going to build on top of that until you're in charge of the conversation enough that you can start introducing any topic that you want. Does that make sense? Can I give you another one, and you can just practice both in alternation? Is that okay? The second one is very similar, but it reverses. It's called the agreement reversal. It's the yes-but principle. So you start agreeing. For example, they talk about sailboats. Says, yeah, sailboats are awesome, but you know what's really cool? Cooking, food. You've gone somewhere completely different, haven't you? And if they may, at this point, you may have a slight power struggle in terms of, like, well, that's weird, man. We're talking about sailing. If you do it with enough authority, with enough enthusiasm, and the right mannerisms, people will just go, all right. You'll see them kind of deflating into the new conversational thread. Does that make sense? If they do start challenging, you'll do what kind of saw happening here. You might give them a look, or really, as long as you keep talking and there's a little bit more energy in what you're saying than someone else's, people go to where the energy is in a conversation. If I interrupt like this and I say, yes, but cooking's so much better, and the cheese on a sandwich is really good, there's no energy in my interaction, isn't it? Whereas if I put more energy into, yes, and you know what's even better than that? It's cooking. I love to cook. Who doesn't? I mean, let's face it. You're creating something. You're like a god in the kitchen. Now, notice how I've put more energy in, more enthusiasm. It's a lot harder. Which one would you rather interrupt me on, by the way? On which of the two? The first one, right? On which one would you find it easier to censor me for trying to take over your conversation? The first one, right? So energy and enthusiasm kind of protect you. They keep you going. Does that make sense? So you've got the agreement extension. You build on what they've said until you have enough control of the conversation that you can change the topic. Or you have the agreement reversal, which has a little bit of a kind of mind-bending moment where people go, where the hell do you go with that? Right? And it requires a little bit more energy to pull off, but is very eloquent when you do, and it's very easy to get into conversation. You cool with those two? Yeah. Quick question over here.
Those are great.
Sure.
Just a quick add-on to the agreement reversal. Some speakers say that if it's possible to avoid the word but, because the but could create defensiveness, but to say, I agree with you, and from this other point of view.
Sure. So when I say the yes but, I don't suggest you have to use the yes but as the words. It's the principle there, right? So you can use yes and something else. I mean, simply it's like, here's a classic way of creating the yes but principle, totally invisibly. Would you like that? Shall we throw it in? Someone talks about whatever it is, let's say sailboats again, and go, you know what? That's just like cooking. It's the classic agreement reversal, isn't it? Just like, it's agreeing, cooking, what the hell? But as long as you carry on at that point, they're gonna give you a few moments to make your case, like cooking, I don't know, has sails and wind going through it, who knows, right? But of course, you're not going to do that. Their mind's going to search for, what's the relevance here? What's the relevance? Now, if you want to be really sneaky, we may as well throw something out if you want to be really sneaky at this point. If you want to be really sneaky, is change topic about 3 times. By the time you've changed a third topic, they won't know how to get back to the original conversation. Right? Most people will forget what it was. Or, let's put it this way. Have you ever been like at the edge of a conversation and people are talking about stuff and then they talk about something that you know about, like a movie you've been to or something like that, and you wanted to say your piece and you're just waiting for the time to say it, and then the conversation moves on, and it moves on somewhere else, and moves on somewhere else, and then suddenly your turn to talk and you go, I've got nothing to say. Because my mind's still on the thing I want to say, but the topic is totally different now. I know it's going to sound awkward if I bring it back up again. Have you had that experience? Well, that's what you're creating. by changing topics relatively quickly earlier on in the conversation. Make sense? I think that's enough for the moment. Just go up, have a conversation with people, walk around, just 2 minute conversations. Your job is, the initial person starts the conversation, is having chat and whatever. Your job is to agree and extend, agree and reverse, and if you want, then you can just throw a couple of different changes of topics in there as well to cement in the fact that you're now running the conversation. Easy? Okay, spend about 3 or 4 minutes doing that, off you go.